So what we want to take a look at next is our application initialization, so that when we load our application we check to see if we've got a token, and if we have, we go and get our currently logged in user and store this user in our user object in our MobX store, and then we can display the user in the navbar, etc. And what we'll do to achieve this is we're going to use something that we've not looked at yet in MobX, which is a reaction. And let's take a look at how we can use this. Now, inside our common store, we've got our token, and what we can do inside MobX is we can react to observables automatically. And if this token changes, then we can do something. And we can use reactions inside our constructor. And there's two different types of reactions we can use. One's called auto run, which means when our store initializes, it's automatically going to run this reaction, and let's say we're observing or reacting on our token, then it's going to run every single time. Our reaction is only going to run after the store is initialized, but then this observable has changed. And that's what we'll use to react to this token observable. So inside my constructor, I'm going to add a reaction, and we'll bring this in from MobX. And what we do inside here is we add an expression. So I'll just add an arrow function, and we specify what it is we want to react on, and in this case it's going to be list.token. And the second part of this is the effect. What do we want to do when our token has changed? So I'm going to specify the token and pass this through. And then what we can do is say if there is a token, what we'll do here is we'll say window.localstorage.setItem and JWT and token. And if there isn't a token, then we'll say window.localstorage.removeItem and JWT. So this means that when we use our set token action, we don't need to specify window.localstorage in here, because whenever we set this particular token, then our reaction is going to run, and if we have a token inside here, then it's going to set this inside local storage, and if we don't have a token inside there, then it's going to remove the token from local storage. So what we also want to do is initialize our apps. Let's go to our app.tsx. And inside here, what we want to do is, first of all, we need access to our common store. So let's add, say, const root store equals use context and specify the root store context. And then we'll get our destructured props of what we need from our common store. And in this case, we'll use this to set the app loaded, and we'll also get the token from our common store. And we need to specify root store.common store. And what we'll do inside here is we'll use an effect to check to see if we've got a token. And if we have, then we'll go and get our user from our API. And if we don't have a token, then we're just going to set our app as loaded. But in order to do this, what we're going to need to do is create a get user method inside our user store so that we can get access to the user for that particular token. So just back in the user store, I'm just going to add another action and just call this one get user and make it an async method. And what I'm going to do is say try and const user equals await agent.user.current, which gets our current user based on the token that we're passing up to this particular method. And if we're sending up a token, then we'll be able to get the user properties from that token based on what we've done in our API. Then what we'll need to do is add a running action. And in the expression here, we'll say list.user equals the user that we get back from our API. And we'll also need to add the corresponding catch. And in here, we'll just log out the error to the console. And we can make use of this particular action inside our app.tsx file. So let's also add the getUser to the destructured props, and we'll say root store.userStore in this case. And then we can add our useEffect method. So let's say useEffect, and we'll bring this in from React. So make sure we have access to this. And inside here, what we'll do is we'll say if we have a token, then we'll say getUser. And we don't need to specify the token or anything like that in here, because our agent.ts file, our Axios interceptor, is going to take care of this for us, because it's going to go and check to see if we've got a JWT. And once this is completed, then what we'll use is finally, and then we'll just say set app loaded. And we're using finally here just in case there is an error. Whatever happens, we're just going to set our app to be loaded so that we're not displaying a permanent loading spinner. And we also need to take care of the else in this case. And in this case, we're just going to set the app as loaded. And we'll also need to pass in our dependencies here, because if we leave it like this, then this is just going to loop over and over again every time any component in our app re-renders. So let's add some dependencies here. We want the getUser as a dependency, the set app loaded, and the token as well. And what we also need to do inside here is make use of this set app loaded, because we only want to return our application once this particular property is set to true. So let's add an if statement, and we'll say if app loaded, and we'll also need to bring in the app loaded from our root store as well, and say if app loaded, or not loaded in this case, then we want to return our loading component, and we'll say the content is equal to loading app in this case. And if we go and take a look at our application, not quite working, because if I inspect my application, I've got my token in here, and based on that, this should actually log me in automatically. And if I refresh, I'm still not logged in, so there's a step missing. And inside our common store, we've got our token set to null initially, and what we want to do is we want to initialize this with the JWT, and we'll say window.localstorage.getItem and the JWT in this case. And when our application initializes, then instead of being null, it should find the token inside there and automatically log us in. And now when I look at my application, I can see that Bob is indeed logged in. And if I go to activities, I can see them. Bob is there in the nav bar. And what we should be able to do now is survive a refresh. And we can see that Bob is still available and logged in there as well. And we should find that our loading app and then loading activities, and then we see our page as well. And if I log out, then we go back to the home page. Looking good, apart from the fact our form is a complete mess. So what we're going to take a look at next is utilizing modals to display our login form, and then when we're ready, our register form as well.